A Werewolf Romance by Olivia Romance. Audiobook narrated by Olivia Smith. Prologue, The Sound of Ending. I was 7 years old the first time I understood what it meant to be broken. Not broken like a dish that falls and shatters. That kind of broken can be swept up, thrown away, forgotten. I was broken in a way that couldn't be hidden, couldn't be fixed, couldn't be forgiven. I was broken because on the night of my first shift, when every other child my age transformed into their wolf for the first time, when the full moon pulled at something primal and ancient in their blood, I remained human. Completely, devastatingly, impossibly human. My name is Sera Whitlock, and this is the story of how I went from the girl with no wolf to the queen no one saw coming. But let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment I learned that in a world of wolves, being human meant being nothing at all. Before we begin, drop a comment below with your country, and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in Nairobi, midnight in New York, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France. I want to know. Don't just sit back. Tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1. The Night of First Shifts. The bonfire burned so hot I could feel it from 50 feet away, could smell the pine sap popping and hissing in the flames. Around me, the entire Clearwater Pack had gathered for the ritual of awakening, the night when children born 7 years ago would finally meet their wolves for the first time. There were 12 of us, 12 7-year-olds lined up in front of Alpha Thorn and the pack elders, wearing ceremonial white robes that made us look like ghosts in the firelight. My mother stood in the crowd, her hands clasped so tightly I could see her knuckles had gone white even from this distance. My father stood beside her, tall and proud, his beta wolf giving him the kind of presence that made other wolves step back instinctively. They were so sure I would shift, so certain that the delay in my wolf's appearance was just that, a delay, nothing more. Tonight, Alpha Thorn's voice boomed across the clearing. These children will discover who they truly are. Tonight, they will embrace their wolves. Tonight, they become full members of the Clearwater Pack. The full moon hung overhead, so bright and huge it looked like I could reach up and touch it. I felt its pull, felt something stirring in my chest, and I thought, this is it. This is when everything will be okay. Shift, Alpha Thorn commanded. Around me, the other children began to change. I heard the sound of bones cracking and reforming, saw bodies contorting and reshaping, fur erupting across skin. Within moments, 11 young wolves stood where children had been, their eyes gleaming with triumph and joy. I remained human. I closed my eyes and reached inward, searching for the wolf that should have been there. Please, I whispered. Please, I know you're there. Please come out. Nothing. Sera? Alpha Thorn's voice was different now. Not proud, but careful. Cautious. Focus. Feel the moon's pull. Let your wolf rise. I tried. Gods, I tried. I reached deeper, pushing past the fear, past the growing panic. I could feel the moon's light on my skin, could feel something ancient calling to me, but when I reached for my wolf, there was only emptiness. A hollow space where something vital should have been. I can't, I whispered, my voice cracking. I can't feel her. The silence that followed was deafening. 11 young wolves stood watching me with curious, tilted heads. Behind them, 300 pack members stared with expressions ranging from pity to disgust. Perhaps she needs more time, someone suggested weakly. She's had 7 years, Alpha Thorn said, and his voice was flat now, emotionless. The tone he used when delivering judgment. The first shift happens on the 7th birthday, or not at all. Those are the old laws. Those are the true laws. But she has alpha blood. My father stepped forward, his voice desperate. Her mother's line goes back to the founding families. There must be a wolf in her. There has to be. Alpha Thorn looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes that made my stomach clench with dread. Not anger, but certainty. The certainty of a man who had just confirmed his worst suspicions. Sometimes, he said carefully, bloodlines run dry. Sometimes the gift skips a generation, or is diluted beyond recognition, or simply fails. He paused. Your daughter is wolfless, Marcus. She is human in a world of shifters. She is broken. The word hung in the air like smoke from the bonfire, choking and inescapable. Broken. My mother made a sound, a wounded animal noise that I would hear in my nightmares for years to come. What does this mean? My father asked, though his voice suggested he already knew. It means, Alphathorn said, that Sera Whitlock is not Pack, cannot be Pack. A wolfless child cannot bond, cannot contribute, cannot defend. She is a liability we cannot afford to carry. She's 7 years old, my mother's voice cracked. She's a child. You can't just— The law is clear, Alphathorn interrupted. No wolf, no Pack. She has until her 18th birthday to develop her shift. If by then the wolf has not emerged, she will be exiled from Clearwater territory. 11 years. He was giving me 11 years to become something I wasn't, to grow something that didn't exist inside me. I looked at my parents and saw their faces crumble, saw hope die in real time. That night, lying in my bed with my mother's tears still damp on my hair from where she'd held me, I made a promise to myself I would find my wolf. I would prove them wrong. I would show everyone that I wasn't broken. I had no idea how wrong I was, or how right. Chapter 2. 11 Years of Waiting. They say hope is a beautiful thing, something that sustains you through hardship. They're wrong. Hope is a poison that keeps you from accepting reality, from adapting, from moving on. I held on to hope for 11 years, and it destroyed me slowly, day by day. The Pack never let me forget what I was. Couldn't forget, really, because my wolflessness showed in everything I did. While other children healed from injuries in hours, my cuts and bruises lasted for days. While they could sense emotions and intentions through their wolf instincts, I remained blind to the undercurrents of Pack politics. While they grew stronger and faster with each passing year, I remained frustratingly, persistently human. But worse than the physical differences was the isolation. Pack bonds are real, tangible things. Wolves can sense each other, can feel the connections that tie them together like invisible threads. They gather in groups naturally, drawn together by something primal and instinctive. I couldn't feel any of it, couldn't sense the bonds, couldn't be drawn into the circles. I was like a person trying to hear music that everyone else could hear perfectly, a song just beyond my range. By the time I was 12, the other children had stopped inviting me to play. By 14, they'd stopped speaking to me unless absolutely necessary. By 16, I'd become a ghost in my own pack, present but not seen, there but not acknowledged. My parents tried. Gods, they tried. My father used his position as beta to shield me from the worst of it, to ensure I was fed and housed and protected. My mother taught me everything she could, trying to compensate for the wolf I didn't have with knowledge and skill. But I could see it wearing on them, the shame of having a wolfless daughter, the pity from other pack members, the whispered conversations that stopped when they entered a room. I was breaking them too. The only person who didn't treat me like I was invisible was Kale. We'd been friends before the ritual of awakening, before everything changed. He was the Alpha's son, destined to lead the pack someday, and I was the Beta's daughter, meant to be his second in command. We were supposed to grow up together, rule together, be a team. Then I failed to shift, and that future evaporated like morning mist. But Kyle, stubborn and loyal to a fault, refused to let our friendship die. He still sought me out, still talked to me, still treated me like I mattered. "You're thinking too loud again," he said one afternoon when I was 17. We were sitting by the creek that ran through pack territory, the same spot where we used to play as children. "I'm thinking the appropriate amount of loud," I replied, tossing a pebble into the water. He smiled, that easy smile that made most of the pack girls swoon. "Your birthday's coming up." My 18th birthday. The deadline. "I'm aware." "Sera?" He turned to face me, and his expression was serious now. "What are you going to do?" "About what?" "Don't." His voice was gentle but firm. "Don't pretend you haven't thought about it. In 3 months, if you haven't shifted, my father will have no choice but to exile you." "That's the law." I know what the law is," I interrupted. "I've had 11 years to memorize it." "So what's your plan?" I looked at him, at this boy who'd become a man, who was strong and capable, and everything an alpha heir should be, who'd stayed my friend when he had every reason not to. "I'm going to shift," I said simply. "Sera." I have to believe that, Kale. I have to believe that somewhere inside me, there's a wolf waiting. Because if there's not, if I really am just broken, then I've wasted 11 years hoping for something impossible. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "And if the birthday comes and you still haven't shifted?" I didn't have an answer for that. Couldn't let myself think about it. "I'll figure it out," I said finally. He reached over and took my hand, and the gesture was so familiar, so easy, that for a moment I could pretend we were 7 again, before everything went wrong. "I don't want you to leave," he said quietly. "You're my best friend, Sera. You always have been. And He stopped himself. "You what?" He shook his head. "Nothing. Just promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you won't do anything reckless trying to force a shift that might not be there." "I promise," I lied. Because the truth was, I would have done anything, tried anything, risked anything to find my wolf. Without it, I had no place in the only world I'd ever known. Without it, I was nothing. The next 3 months passed in a blur of desperate attempts. I tried meditation techniques the pack shaman suggested. I tried fasting, tried pushing my body to its limits with extreme exercise, tried every old wives' tale and folk remedy anyone could remember. Nothing worked. And then, 2 weeks before my 18th birthday, my mother came to my room with tears streaming down her face and a small cloth bag in her hands. "What's this?" I asked, taking the bag. "Money?" she said. "Enough to get you somewhere safe, somewhere far from pack territories." My heart clenched. "Mom?" "You're not going to shift, baby." Her voice broke on the words. "I can see it. You've tried everything, and I know you'd kill yourself trying if we let you, but it's not going to happen. The wolf isn't there." "You don't know that." "I do." She cupped my face in her hands. "And I love you anyway. I love you so much. And I'm so sorry we failed you. Sorry we couldn't protect you from this. But Sera, you need to run. Before the exile. Before you're forced out with nothing. I can't just abandon you and Dad. I can't. You have to." Her voice was fierce now, desperate. "Because if you stay, if you let them exile you officially, you'll be marked. Every pack in every territory will know you're an exile. They'll treat you like filth, like a disease. But if you leave now, quietly, you can start over. You can make a life somewhere. You can be safe." I stared at the bag of money, feeling the weight of it, the weight of everything it represented. Running, giving up, admitting defeat. 2 weeks, I said. "Give me 2 more weeks. If I haven't shifted by my birthday, I'll go. I promise." She looked like she wanted to argue, but she just nodded and pulled me into a fierce embrace. I didn't know then that I would never see her again, that in 2 weeks, everything would change in ways I couldn't possibly imagine, that the wolf I'd been searching for had been there all along, just waiting for the right moment to wake up. Chapter 3. The Last Full Moon. My 18th birthday fell on a full moon. Of course it did. The universe had a sick sense of humor like that. The pack gathered at dawn in the ceremonial clearing, the same place where 11 years ago I'd failed my first shift. Alpha Thorn stood before the assembled wolves, my parents behind him with faces carved from stone, trying not to show emotion. Kale stood with the other pack warriors, and when our eyes met, I saw grief there, raw and terrible. "Sera Whitlock," Alpha Thorn's voice rang out across the clearing. You have reached your 18th year without manifesting a wolf. According to pack law, you are hereby declared wolfless and are sentenced to exile from Clearwater territory. You have until sunset to gather your belongings and leave our lands. Should you return, you will be killed on sight. This is the law. This is the way. This is the way, the pack echoed, their voices blending into a death knell. I should have felt something, I thought. Fear, anger, despair. But I was numb, hollowed out by 11 years of hope deferred. Do you accept this judgment? Alphathorn asked. I accept, I heard myself say. What else could I say? That it was unfair? It was. That I didn't deserve this? I didn't. But none of that mattered. The law was the law. My mother broke then, a sob escaping her throat. My father caught her before she could rush forward, holding her back as she cried. You have until sunset, Alphathorn repeated. Then he turned his back on me, and one by one, the pack did the same. The ultimate dismissal. The ultimate rejection. All except Cale. He held my gaze for a long moment, his jaw tight with suppressed emotion. Then he mouthed 2 words. I'm sorry. I nodded and turned away before I could start crying. The walk back to my family's cabin felt endless. I packed what little I had, clothes, the money my mother had given me, a photograph of my parents from before I was born, when they still looked happy and unbroken. My mother's locket with the pack crest engraved on it. I left a note. Thank you for loving me anyway. I'm sorry I couldn't be what you needed me to be. I'll be okay, I promise. Another lie, but a kind one. I left at noon, 6 hours before sunset. I couldn't bear to wait, couldn't stand the thought of my parents having to watch me go. Better to slip away quietly, like I'd been living for the past 11 years, a ghost finally fading completely. I walked to the territory border, to the line marked by white stones that had stood for generations. Once I crossed it, I would be packless, unprotected, fair game for any wolf who wanted to hurt me. I stood there for a long moment, my hand on the last white stone, feeling its sun-warmed surface beneath my palm. Goodbye, I whispered to the forest, to the pack, to the life I'd thought I would have. Then I stepped over the line. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then pain exploded through my body. I collapsed, my scream tearing through the silent forest. It felt like every bone in my body was shattering simultaneously, like my skin was being flayed from the inside out, like something enormous and ancient was tearing its way out of my chest. No, I gasped. Not now. Not now. Please, not now. But the shift couldn't be stopped. After 18 years of silence, my wolf had finally decided to wake up. The transformation took forever and no time at all. When it finally finished, I lay panting on the forest floor, seeing the world through new eyes, smelling scents so rich and complex I almost couldn't process them, feeling the earth beneath 4 paws instead of 2 feet. I had a wolf. After 18 years, 11 of them spent desperately searching. I had finally shifted, and I was on the wrong side of the border. I tried to shift back, to return to human form so I could cross back over, so I could show them, prove that I did belong. But my wolf wouldn't obey. She was too new, too strong, too wild after being caged for so long. She wanted to run, to hunt, to be free. So we ran. I don't know how long I ran through the forest, my new wolf form eating up ground with effortless speed. Hours, maybe, or days. Time lost meaning in the joy of finally being what I was supposed to be. I only stopped when I caught a scent that made my wolf freeze. Another wolf, but different, stronger, more powerful, ancient and commanding in a way that made every instinct scream danger. I should have run, should have turned and fled back the way I'd come. Instead, I followed the scent. It led me to a clearing where a massive black wolf stood in a shaft of moonlight. He was easily twice the size of any wolf I'd ever seen, with eyes that gleamed like molten gold and an aura of power that made the air itself feel heavy. He saw me and went utterly still. Then, slowly, he shifted. The transformation was smooth, effortless. The change of someone who'd been doing it for decades. A man stood where the wolf had been, tall and broad-shouldered, with black hair and those same golden eyes. He was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, and he was staring at me like I'd just answered a question he'd been asking his whole life. "You," he breathed, his voice rough with emotion. "I've been searching for you." My wolf, unbidden, shifted me back to human form. I knelt on the forest floor, naked and vulnerable, staring up at this stranger. "Who are you?" I asked. He smiled, and it was sad and wondering and fierce all at once. "I'm Kieran Blackthorn," he said. "Alpha King of the Northern Territories." My breath caught. The Alpha King. The most powerful wolf in existence. The one who ruled over all packs, who answered to no one. "And you," he continued, taking a step closer, "are my fated mate." Chapter 4. The Bond. I should have laughed, should have told him he was mistaken, that I was nobody, nothing, a wolfless outcast who'd only just shifted for the first time in her life. But the moment he said the words, something inside me recognized their truth. A golden thread I'd never felt before suddenly blazed into existence between us, pulling taut, humming with energy and certainty. The mate bond. I'd heard about it my entire life, whispered about in reverent tones. The sacred connection between two souls, rare and precious and undeniable. Most wolves never found their fated mates, settling instead for chosen bonds that were functional, but lacked the soul-deep rightness of a true pairing. And this man, this Alpha King, was claiming I was his. "That's impossible," I whispered. "Is it?" He crouched down, bringing himself to my eye level, careful to keep a respectful distance despite my nakedness. With a fluid motion, he pulled off his shirt and handed it to me. "Here, you're shaking." I hadn't realized I was. I took the shirt with trembling hands and pulled it on. It fell to my mid-thigh, and his scent enveloped me, pine and snow, and something wild that made my newly awakened wolf purr with satisfaction. "I don't understand," I said. "I just shifted for the first time an hour ago. I've been wolfless my entire life. I was exiled today because I didn't have a wolf. How can I possibly be your mate?" Kieran's expression darkened. "Exiled? Who would exile their own pack member for being wolfless? The Clearwater Pack. It's the law. No wolf, no pack." "That's not law," he said, his voice hard now. "That's cruelty. Every shifter knows that late bloomers exist. Some wolves don't emerge until adulthood, especially in those with alpha bloodlines. The power is too great to manifest early." I stared at him. "What? You have alpha blood, don't you? Your scent carries it. Strong bloodlines sometimes delay the shift, because the wolf is too powerful for a child's body to contain. By exiling you, your pack essentially prevented your wolf from emerging safely within pack bounds." His jaw clenched. "They should have protected you, trained you, prepared you. Instead, they threw you away." The words hit me like physical blows. 11 years. 11 years of thinking I was broken, of being treated as lesser, of believing there was something fundamentally wrong with me. And it had all been preventable. "I need to go back," I said, trying to stand. "I need to tell them. My parents, they need to know I'm not broken. They need to—" "Sera?" The way he said my name stopped me cold. "How do you know my name?" "I can feel it through the bond, just like I can feel your pain, your confusion, your fear." He stood, offering me his hand. "And I need you to listen to me very carefully. You cannot go back to the Clearwater Pack." "Why not?" "Because you crossed the border after your exile was declared. By pack law, you are now considered a rogue. If you return, they have the legal right to kill you on sight." He paused. "And because you're mated to me now, the moment the bond snapped into place, you became something far more important than an exiled pack member. You became a target. I don't understand. I am the Alpha King, he said patiently. I have enemies, Sera. Packs who resent my authority, wolves who want my power, political rivals who would do anything to weaken me. You, as my fated mate, are now the greatest leverage anyone could have against me. His golden eyes held mine. If the wrong wolves find out about you before you're trained, before you can defend yourself, they will hurt you to hurt me. Or worse, they'll try to kill you to prevent the mate bond from being completed. My head was spinning. This is insane! An hour ago I was nobody. Now you're telling me I'm some kind of political target? Yes. He said it simply, without apology. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted, isn't what you expected. But the bond doesn't lie, Sera. You are mine, as I am yours. And that means everything in your life just changed. I looked down at my hands, still shaking. I could feel him through the bond now that I knew to look for it, could sense his emotions, concern, protectiveness, and underneath it all, a fierce, possessive joy that should have scared me, but instead felt right. What if I say no? I asked quietly. What if I don't want this? Don't want you? Pain lanced through the bond, sharp and immediate. Kieran's face remained impassive, but I felt his reaction in my chest. Then I would respect your choice, he said, his voice carefully controlled. I would ensure your safety, set you up somewhere far from pack politics, and never contact you again. He paused, but the bond would remain. You would feel me for the rest of your life, feel this connection, and it would slowly drive you mad. That's the curse of a rejected mate bond. It doesn't die cleanly. It festers. That's not fair. No, he agreed. It's not. Nothing about this is fair to you. You've been through hell, and now I'm asking you to trust a stranger, to upend your life again, to step into a world you don't understand and accept a bond you didn't choose. He took a deep breath. But Sera, I have been searching for you for 15 years. 15 years of hoping, of traveling to every pack in every territory, of beginning to believe you didn't exist. And now that I've found you, now that I can finally feel complete for the first time in my adult life, I'm asking you to give this a chance. Give me a chance. Why? My voice came out smaller than I intended. Why do you want me? I have no training, no experience, no idea how to be anyone's mate, let alone an Alpha King's. I'm nobody. You are not nobody. The words came out fierce, almost angry. You are everything. And I want you because the bond chose you. Because standing here with you, I feel more at peace than I have in decades. Because you're brave enough to question me, strong enough to survive what would have broken most wolves, and stubborn enough to keep hoping even when hope seemed impossible. He moved closer, slowly, giving me time to retreat if I wanted. I didn't. I can't promise this will be easy, he said softly. Court politics are vicious. There will be wolves who resent you, who challenge you, who try to hurt you. But I can promise I will protect you with everything I am. I will teach you, train you, stand beside you, and if you'll let me, I will spend every day proving that you are worthy of this bond, of this position, of being loved. Being loved. The words caught in my throat. I'm scared, I admitted. I know. His hand came up slowly, carefully, giving me every opportunity to pull away. When I didn't, he cupped my cheek with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone so powerful. But you've been brave your whole life, Sera. Be brave a little longer. Let me take you home. I looked into his golden eyes and felt the bond humming between us. Felt my newly awakened wolf urging me toward him. Felt something in my chest that might have been hope or might have been madness. Okay, I whispered. His smile was like sunrise. Okay? Take me home, I said. Show me this world I'm supposedly meant to be part of. But Kieran? I straightened my shoulders, channeling every ounce of dignity I could muster despite wearing nothing but his shirt. I'm not just going to be your mate. If I'm doing this, if I'm stepping into this life, I'm going to be a queen. A real one. I'm going to matter. Understand? His smile widened, and I saw pride there, fierce and bright. I wouldn't expect anything less. He shifted back into his wolf form, that massive black beast with golden eyes, and knelt down. The meaning was clear. Climb on. You want me to ride you? I asked, incredulous. His wolf huffed, and almost laughed, and nodded. This is insane, I muttered. But I climbed onto his back, gripping the thick fur at his neck. If you drop me, I'm rejecting the bond on principle. He huffed again, and then we were running. The world blurred around us as he carried me through the forest at impossible speeds. I clung on, exhilarated and terrified in equal measure, feeling the power in every stride, the absolute confidence in every movement. We ran until the forest gave way to mountains, and the mountains gave way to a valley where a city of lights sprawled beneath the stars. The northern capital, the seat of the Alpha King's power, my new home. As we descended toward the lights, I felt the weight of what I'd agreed to settling over me. This wasn't just accepting a mate bond. This was accepting a throne, a responsibility, a life I'd never prepared for. But as Kieran's wolf glanced back at me, golden eyes warm with affection and promise, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could do this. I'd survived 18 years of being called broken. Being queen would be easy by comparison. Or so I thought. Chapter 5. The Court of Wolves. The palace was carved from the mountain itself, a sprawling complex of stone and timber that seemed to grow organically from the rock. Torches burned in iron sconces along the walls, and guards stood at attention every 50 feet, their eyes widening as Kieran carried me past. Your Majesty, they murmured, bowing low. Their gazes flickered to me with obvious curiosity, but none dared to question. Kieran carried me through corridors I couldn't begin to navigate, upstairs and around corners until we finally reached a massive door. It swung open at his approach, and we entered a suite of rooms so luxurious I almost laughed. He shifted back to human form, gloriously unself-conscious in his nudity, and immediately grabbed a robe from a hook by the door. The bathing chamber is through there, he said, pointing. I'll have clothes brought for you. Take your time. I need to inform my council of your arrival, and that conversation is going to be, he grimaced, complicated. They won't be happy, I guessed. They'll be thrilled I found my mate, he said. They'll be less thrilled that you're completely untrained and have no court experience. And they'll be absolutely furious when they find out about the Clearwater Pack's treatment of you. His expression darkened. There will be consequences for Alpha Thorn, I promise you that. I don't want revenge, I said quickly. This isn't revenge. This is justice. What he did violates the most fundamental laws we have. He endangered a pack member's life through negligence and cruelty. That cannot stand, regardless of whether you're my mate. He moved closer. But we'll discuss that later. For now, rest. Recover. I'll send someone to attend to you. I don't need a servant, I protested. He smiled. Not a servant. A friend. Her name is Lyra, and she's going to help you navigate court life. Trust me, you'll want her on your side. True to his word, 10 minutes after he left, a knock came at the door. I'd just finished bathing and was wrapped in a towel, trying to figure out which of the many luxurious robes to put on when a woman's voice called out, May I enter? Yes? The door opened to reveal a woman about my age, with copper hair and laughing green eyes. She carried an armful of dresses and wore the casual confidence of someone completely comfortable in her own skin. You must be Sera, she said, grinning. I'm Lyra, Kieran's cousin, and apparently your new lady-in-waiting, though I prefer to think of myself as your partner in crime. I blinked. Lady-in-waiting? Technically, you're the Alpha King's mate, which makes you the Luna Queen. You need someone to teach you protocol, help you dress, manage your schedule, and generally keep you from accidentally starting a political incident. She dumped the dresses on the bed. That's where I come in. But between you and me? She leaned in conspiratorially. Screw protocol. I'm here to help you survive. Despite everything, I found myself smiling. Does Kieran know you're bad at your job? He's counting on it. She started sorting through the dresses. Now, we need to get you dressed for dinner. The entire court is going to be there, and they're all dying to meet you. No pressure. Great, I said weakly. Hey. Lyra's expression softened. I know this is overwhelming. Kieran told me what happened to you, about your pack. That's beyond cruel, and I'm so sorry. But you're safe here. We're going to make sure of that. I just met him 2 hours ago, I pointed out. How can he trust me? How can any of you know I'm not lying about the bond? Lyra laughed. Oh, honey, the bond isn't something you can fake. Every wolf in this palace is going to sense it the moment you walk into a room. It practically radiates off mated pairs, especially newly bonded ones. She held up a deep green dress. This one. It'll bring out your eyes and match Kieran's formal robes. Very coordinated. Very, yes, we're mates, deal with it. An hour later, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. The dress fit perfectly, elegant without being ostentatious. Lyra had done something magical with my hair, pulling it up in a style that looked complicated but felt comfortable. She'd even found jewelry, a simple silver necklace and matching earrings. You look like a queen, Lyra said, satisfied. I look like I'm playing dress-up, I countered. Same thing. She grinned. Come on, time to face the wolves. The dining hall was enormous, with a table that could seat 50 people easily. It was less than half full, but the wolves present all radiated power. Alphas, I realized. These were the regional alphas, the ones who controlled the various territories under Kieran's rule. Conversation stopped when we entered. Kieran stood at the far end of the table, now dressed in formal robes that made him look every inch the king he was. His face lit up when he saw me, and I felt warmth flood through the bond. Everyone, he said, his voice carrying easily through the suddenly silent room. I'd like you to meet Sera Whitlock, my fated mate, your Luna Queen. The silence stretched. Then a woman with silver hair and sharp features rose from her seat. With respect, Your Majesty, she said, her tone suggesting she felt no respect at all. We know nothing about this girl. Where is she from? What pack? What bloodline? You expect us to simply accept that a stranger is our queen? I expect you to accept what the mate bond has declared, Lady Morgana, Kieran replied, his voice pleasant but edged with steel. Or are you questioning the will of the moon goddess herself? Morgana's lips thinned. Of course not. But surely you understand our concern. The Luna Queen position is not merely ceremonial. She will have access to pack secrets, political intelligence, the power to influence your decisions. We must ensure she's worthy. She's my mate, Kieran said. That makes her worthy. Then let her prove it. Another voice, a man with graying hair and a colonel's bearing. If she truly carries alpha blood as you claim, let her demonstrate it. Let her face the Luna trials. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what the Luna trials were, but from the shocked murmurs around the table, they weren't good. The trials haven't been invoked in 50 years, Kieran said, his voice dangerously quiet. Then it's past time, the colonel said. If she survives them, no one will question her right to stand at your side. If she fails, he shrugged, then the moon goddess has spoken. She's been a wolf for less than a day, Kieran snarled. She hasn't been trained. This isn't a test. It's an execution. Then perhaps she's not ready to be queen, Morgana said smoothly. The table erupted in argument, wolves shouting over each other, the division clear. About half supported me, half wanted me to prove myself. I stood frozen, overwhelmed by the hostility, by the casual way they discussed my potential death. Then I felt Kieran through the bond, felt his fury and his fear and his fierce protectiveness. He would fight them all to protect me, would burn down his own court to keep me safe. And that wasn't fair to him. "I'll do it," I heard myself say. The room went quiet. "I'll do the trials," I repeated louder this time. "Whatever they are, I'll face them." "Sera, no," Kieran said. "Yes." I met his eyes, trying to convey through the bond what I couldn't say aloud. That I needed this. That I couldn't start my reign by hiding behind him. That if I was going to be queen, I had to earn it. "If this is what it takes to prove I belong here, then I'll do it." "You don't know what you're agreeing to," he said. "Then tell me." He looked at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. The Luna Trials are 3 challenges designed to test a queen's strength, wisdom, and compassion. They were created centuries ago when multiple wolves claimed the same mate, and the goddess needed a way to determine who was truly worthy. He paused. "Wolves have died in the trials, Sera. It's not just difficult. It's dangerous." "I understand." "Do you?" He moved closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "Because I just found you. I just finally felt complete after 15 years of searching. And now you're asking me to risk losing you before we've even had a chance to know each other." I reached up and touched his face, feeling the bond pulse between us. I survived 18 years of being told I was worthless. I survived exile. I survived my wolf finally emerging after a lifetime of waiting. I'm stronger than I look, Kieran. Trust me. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they blazed with emotion. "I do trust you, I just don't trust them." He glared at the table. "The trials will begin in 3 days," Morgana announced, sounding far too pleased. "That should give you time to prepare, such as it is." 1 week, Kieran countered. "She deserves that much." 5 days, the colonel compromised. "We can't delay too long. There are already rumors spreading about your new mate. We need to either confirm her position or—" He didn't finish, but the meaning was clear. 5 days, Kieran agreed reluctantly. As we left the dining hall, neither of us touching the food that had been laid out, I felt the weight of what I'd agreed to settling over me. 5 days to prepare for trials that could kill me. 5 days to become worthy of a position I'd never wanted and still didn't fully understand. 5 days to prove I wasn't the broken, worthless thing my old pack had believed me to be. "Sera," Kieran said softly as we reached his chambers, "you don't have to do this. We can refuse the trials. Let them challenge the bond all they want. I will not risk you." "Yes, you will," I said. "Because I'm asking you to. Because this is my choice. And because—" I took a deep breath. "Because I need to prove it to myself. That I'm not broken. That I never was. That everything I survived meant something." He pulled me into his arms, and I let myself lean into him, let myself feel safe for just a moment. "Then we have 5 days, he said into my hair, "and I'm going to use every second of it to make sure you survive." "No pressure," I said, trying to joke. He didn't laugh. "I can't lose you, Sera. Not now. Not when I just found you." "You won't," I promised, praying it was true. Chapter 6. Training Montage. Kieran didn't waste time. The next morning I was woken before dawn by Lyra shaking my shoulder. "Up and at 'em, Your Majesty," she said cheerfully. "Time to learn how not to die." The training yard was empty this early. Just us and the slowly lightening sky. Kieran was already there, dressed in simple fighting leathers, looking every inch the warrior underneath the king. "We're going to start with the basics," he said. "Your wolf is strong, Sera. I can feel her through the bond. But strength without control is useless. You need to learn to shift at will, to fight in both forms, to use your instincts without letting them overwhelm you." "In 5 days, I said skeptically. "In 5 days, he confirmed. "Which means we don't have time to be gentle. This is going to hurt. Are you ready?" I nodded. He was right. It hurt. shifting at will turned out to be exponentially harder than my wolf's first emergence. My wolf, having been suppressed for 18 years, wanted to stay out. Coaxing her back into human form took hours of exhausting mental effort, and once I finally managed it, shifting back to wolf form was almost as hard. "You're fighting her," Kieran observed on the second day, after I'd collapsed in exhaustion from my 5th shift. "You're treating your wolf like something separate from yourself. She's not. She's you. You are her. Until you accept that, you'll always struggle." "That doesn't make sense," I panted. "It does to a wolf." He crouched beside me. "Close your eyes. Feel her in your mind. What does she want?" I did as he asked. My wolf was tired, frustrated, but underneath that, she was curious. She wanted to hunt, to run, to be free. "She wants to run," I said. "Then run with her. Not as a human directing a wolf, but as a wolf. Let go of the separation." I tried it on the next shift, and something clicked. Instead of forcing the change, I simply let it happen. Let myself become the wolf, instead of commanding the wolf to appear. The shift was instant and painless. "There," Kieran said, pride warm in his voice. "That's it. You're not two things, Sera. You're one thing in 2 forms. Remember that." The physical training was even more brutal. Kieran sparred with me in both human and wolf forms, never holding back more than absolutely necessary to avoid seriously injuring me. "The trials won't be gentle," he said after knocking me on my ass for the 10th time that morning. "Neither will I." "Trust me," I gasped. I noticed. By day 3, I was covered in bruises and aching in places I didn't know could ache, but I was also faster, stronger, more confident in my wolf form. "You're a natural," Lyra said, watching me finally manage to dodge one of Kieran's attacks. "It's actually kind of annoying how fast you're learning." "I had 18 years to think about what I'd do if I ever got a wolf," I said. "I'm just finally getting to try it." The mental training was different. Kieran brought in his council members, the ones who'd supported me, to teach me about pack politics, court protocol, the delicate balance of power that kept the territories functioning. "The Luna Queen isn't just the Alpha King's mate," an elderly wolf named Marcus explained. "She's the heart of the pack. Where the king leads through strength and strategy, the queen leads through wisdom and compassion. She's the one wolves come to when they need justice tempered with mercy, when they need understanding, not just orders." "That sounds important," I said. "It's the most important position in our society," Marcus said seriously. "A weak king with a strong queen can survive. A strong king with a weak queen will eventually fail. The balance matters." On day 4, Kieran brought me to a private garden tucked away in the palace's heart. "Tomorrow the trials begin," he said. "I can't tell you exactly what you'll face. The challenges are different for every Luna Queen, tailored to test her specific weaknesses. But I can tell you this. They're designed to break you, to find the cracks in your armor and exploit them. And Sera," he took my hands, "your biggest crack is that you still believe deep down that you're not good enough, that you're broken." I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. He was right. "You're going to face that tomorrow," he continued. "Whatever form the trials take, they're going to make you confront that belief. And when they do, I need you to remember something." "What?" "That you were never broken. You were delayed. There's a difference." His thumbs traced circles on my palms. "Your wolf waited because she knew you weren't ready. She knew you needed to be stronger, to have survived what you survived, to have the compassion and understanding that only comes from suffering. She waited until you were exactly who you needed to be to stand beside me, to be queen." Tears burned in my eyes. "You really believe that?" "I know it." He pulled me close. "And tomorrow, you're going to prove it. Not to them, not to me, but to yourself." That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood on the balcony of Kieran's chambers, our chambers now, watching the moon rise over the mountains. "Nervous?" Kieran came to stand beside me, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. "Terrified," I admitted. "Good. Fear will keep you sharp." He was quiet for a moment. Sera, if something goes wrong tomorrow, if the worst happens, I need you to know. Don't, I interrupted. Don't say goodbye. I'm not going to die. You can't know that. Yes, I can. I turned to face him, because I didn't survive 18 years of hell just to die 5 days after finally finding where I belong. I'm going to pass these trials, Kieran. And then I'm going to be the best damn queen this court has ever seen. He smiled, fierce and proud. I believe you. Good. I stood on my toes and kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it. Everything I was too scared to say aloud. When I pulled back, his eyes were blazing. Now go to sleep. I need my mate well rested for when I prove everyone wrong tomorrow. He laughed, actually laughed, and pulled me back inside. We fell asleep, tangled together, the mate bond humming between us strong and sure. Tomorrow I would face the Luna trials. Tomorrow I would prove I was worthy. Tomorrow everything would change. Again. Chapter 7. The first trial. They came for me at dawn. Not Kieran, not Lyra. 2 silent guards who led me from the palace to a clearing deep in the forest. The entire court had gathered, wolves in both human and beast form creating a circle around a raised stone platform. Alpha Morgana stood at the platform's center, dressed in ceremonial robes. Colonel Thane stood beside her, his expression unreadable. Kieran was there too, standing with his council, his face carefully neutral, but his emotions screaming through the bond. Fear, pride, protectiveness, love. I focused on that last one as I climbed the platform steps. Sera Whitlock, Morgana's voice rang out. You stand before us to face the Luna trials, to prove your worth to lead beside our king. Do you accept this challenge freely, knowing the risks? I do, I said, proud that my voice didn't shake. The trials are threefold, she continued. The trial of strength, to prove you can protect your pack. The trial of wisdom, to prove you can lead them. And the trial of heart, to prove you are worthy to rule them. She paused. The first trial begins now. The stone platform beneath my feet began to glow, ancient runes lighting up in sequence. I felt magic press against my skin, old and powerful and utterly foreign. Your challenge, Morgana said, is survival. The world twisted, and I was no longer in the clearing. I stood instead in a dense forest, night dark despite the fact that it had been dawn moments ago. The air smelled wrong, tainted with something acrid and rotten. And I wasn't alone. 3 wolves emerged from the trees, massive and malformed. Their eyes glowed red with madness, and foam dripped from their jaws. Rabid wolves. The most dangerous thing a shifter could face, because they felt no pain, knew no fear, fought until either they died or you did. This is the trial of strength, Morgana's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. Defeat the corruption, or be consumed by it. The wolves charged. I shifted, letting my wolf surge forward, and met them head on. The fight was vicious and desperate. Rabid wolves didn't use strategy. They just attacked with mindless fury. But I had something they didn't. Training. 5 days of Kieran beating the fundamentals into me. I used their madness against them, dodging and striking, letting them hurt each other in their frenzy to reach me. When one got too close, I felt teeth sink into my shoulder, and I yelped in pain. Then I remembered what Kieran had taught me. In wolf form, you're stronger than you think. I twisted, using my weight to throw the rabid wolf off balance, then went for its throat. The kill was messy and awful, but necessary. 2 left. They were more cautious now, circling. I was bleeding, limping. My injured shoulder screamed with every movement, but I was still standing. I feinted left, and when one wolf lunged to counter, I struck right, catching the second wolf's throat in my jaws. It thrashed, clawing, but I held on until it stopped moving. The last wolf howled, a sound of pure rage, and charged. I met it head-on, and we tumbled together in a snarling mass of fur and teeth and blood. When the dust settled, I stood over its body, panting and bleeding, but alive. The forest melted away, and I was back on the stone platform. Back in my human form, naked and covered in wounds that were already starting to heal. Kieran looked like he wanted to vault onto the platform and grab me, but he held himself back. "The first trial is complete," Morgana announced. "The Luna candidate has proven her strength." A healer stepped forward and treated my wounds with quick efficiency. The bites closed, though they'd leave scars. "You have 1 hour to rest," Thane said. "Then the second trial begins." I didn't rest. I couldn't. Adrenaline still sang through my veins, and my wolf prowled restlessly in my mind, ready for more. Lyra brought me clothes and water. "You were incredible," she whispered. "I've never seen someone win that trial so cleanly on their first try." "First try?" I asked. "Most candidates fail the first time and have to attempt again later. You just walked through it like it was nothing." "It wasn't nothing," I said, touching my shoulder where the bite had been. "But I've survived worse." When the hour ended, I climbed back onto the platform. "The trial of wisdom," Morgana announced, and the runes glowed again. This time, I didn't leave the platform. Instead, images appeared in the air around me, shimmering like heat mirages. "You are queen," Morgana's voice intoned. "Your pack faces a choice. Choose wisely, choose wrongly, and your people suffer." The first scenario appeared, a mother and child, refugees from a collapsed pack, begging for asylum. But accepting them risked war with the pack that claimed jurisdiction over them. "What do you do?" Morgana asked. I thought carefully. "I grant them temporary sanctuary while negotiating with the other pack. If they have legitimate reason to fear returning, I offer permanent protection and deal with the political consequences. Pack law says we protect those who cannot protect themselves, regardless of politics." The image faded. Another appeared. 2 wolves fighting over territory, both with valid claims, both demanding judgment. "What do you do?" "I investigate the history of the land, determine which claim is stronger, but if both are equally valid, I divide it fairly, or offer alternative territory of equal value. Justice isn't always about declaring a winner. Sometimes it's about finding compromise." More scenarios came, each more complex than the last. Questions of resource distribution, punishment for crimes, handling wolves who challenged the king's authority. For each one, I drew not on formal training I didn't have, but on 18 years of observing pack politics from the outside, of seeing what worked, what failed, what caused resentment, and what built loyalty. Finally, the last scenario appeared, and I felt my breath catch. It was Alpha Thorn, my old Alpha, kneeling before me. "He has broken pack law," Morgana's voice said. "Exiled a pack member unjustly. His pack demands justice. What do you do?" This wasn't hypothetical. This was real. I looked at the image of Thorn, feeling nothing but pity. He'd been bound by law, too, by tradition, by the same ignorance that had hurt me. "I strip him of his alpha position," I said slowly. "But I don't execute him or imprison him. Instead, I sentence him to serve as a teacher, to educate other alphas about late-blooming wolves, so this never happens again. His punishment is to spend the rest of his life preventing the same mistake he made. That way, something good comes from the pain he caused." The image faded. "The second trial is complete," Morgana announced, and I heard surprise in her voice. "The Luna candidate has proven her wisdom. 2 down, 1 to go." But as I faced the final trial, I knew this would be the hardest. Because wisdom and strength could be taught, practiced, improved. The trial of heart was different. That one would cut deep. Chapter 8. The Trial of Heart. "The final trial," Morgana said, and for the first time, there was something that might have been respect in her voice. "The trial of heart. This is where most candidates fail. where strength and wisdom aren't enough. Because this trial doesn't test what you can do. It tests who you are. The runes blazed brighter than before, and the world dissolved. I stood in a small cottage, familiar, painfully familiar, my family's cabin in Clearwater territory. My mother sat at the kitchen table, her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. My father stood by the window, staring out at nothing, his expression carved from grief. "Mom?" My voice came out small. "Dad?" They didn't react, couldn't see me. "They blame themselves," a voice said behind me. I spun to find a woman standing there, ancient and ageless all at once, with eyes that held the stars. "Your parents. Every day since you left, they've carried the guilt of failing you." "Who are you?" I whispered. "I am the voice of the trial. I am here to show you truth and to offer you a choice." She gestured to my parents. "They suffer because of you. Because you survived. Because you're here, claiming a throne, while they believe you dead or worse." "I didn't have a choice," I said. "I was exiled." "And now you do have a choice." The scene shifted. Now I saw Kieran, standing before his court, his face hard with the weight of leadership. "You can return to them. Give up the bond, give up the throne, go back to your pack and tell them you're alive. Ease their suffering. Be with the family you've known your whole life." "But I'd lose Kieran," I said. "Yes. The bond would break. It would hurt, but you'd survive. And your parents would have their daughter back. Their real daughter, not the queen standing before strangers." She paused. "Or you can stay. Become queen. Gain power, position, respect. But your parents will never know you survived. They'll die thinking they failed you, that you died alone and afraid because of their weakness." It was a cruel choice, perfectly designed to tear me apart. "This isn't fair," I said. "The trial never is. It shows you the cost of your choices, the price of power." The woman's expression was unreadable. "So choose, Sera Whitlock. Family or fate, love or loyalty, the life you knew or the life you could have." I looked at my mother, still crying, looked at my father, still broken. Then I closed my eyes and reached inward, to the place where my wolf lived, to the bond that connected me to Kieran. "This is a false choice," I said quietly. "How so?" "Because you're assuming I have to choose between loving my parents and loving Kieran, between honoring my past and embracing my future. But that's not how love works." I opened my eyes. "I don't have to give up my parents to be queen. I can send word to them, tell them I'm alive and safe. I can visit them. I can make sure they know I don't blame them for what happened." "Your old pack exiled you," the woman pointed out. "Returning, even to visit, could be dangerous. Then I'll change the law. I'm going to be queen, right? That means I have the power to pardon exiles, to reform the systems that hurt wolves like me. I can use my position to make sure no other child suffers what I did. That's not abandoning my parents. That's honoring them by fixing what broke our family." The woman studied me for a long moment. Then slowly, she smiled. "And Kieran? The bond? The throne?" "I choose all of it," I said firmly. "I choose to be queen and daughter, to honor the mate bond in my family, to use my pain to prevent others from suffering. I refuse to accept that gaining one thing means losing another. That's scarcity thinking. That's fear. And I'm done being afraid." The cottage melted away. The woman's form shimmered and changed, growing taller, more ethereal, until she was clearly something other than wolf. "You pass," she said, and her voice resonated with power. "Not because you made the easy choice, but because you refused to accept a false dichotomy. The trial of heart isn't about choosing between two goods. It's about having the courage to fight for both, to refuse to let the world make you small." I was back on the platform, back in front of the assembled court. Morgana looked stunned. Colonel Thane actually smiled. And Kieran's face was radiant with pride and love and relief so intense it blazed through the bond. "The Luna trials are complete," Morgana announced, her voice ringing across the clearing. "Sera Whitlock has proven her strength, her wisdom, and her heart. She is worthy to stand as Luna Queen." The court erupted in cheers and howls, a sound of celebration so loud it echoed off the mountains. Kieran was moving before Morgana finished speaking, leaping onto the platform and catching me in his arms. I clung to him, suddenly exhausted, every ounce of adrenaline draining away. "You did it," he breathed into my hair. "God, Sera, you were magnificent." "I told you I wouldn't die," I said, though my voice shook. He laughed, and it was a sound of pure joy. Then he was kissing me, right there in front of everyone, claiming me publicly as thoroughly as the trials had. When we finally broke apart, the court was still cheering. Even Morgana looked grudgingly impressed. "Tomorrow," Kieran announced, his arm around my waist, supporting me as I swayed with exhaustion. "Tomorrow we'll hold the coronation ceremony. Tomorrow, Sera officially becomes your Luna Queen." "Tomorrow," I agreed, leaning into him. "But tonight I'm going to sleep for approximately 15 years. "That can be arranged," he said, and swept me off the platform in his arms. As he carried me back to the palace, with Lyra cheering and the court celebrating behind us, I felt something settle in my chest. Something that felt like peace. I'd spent 18 years trying to find my wolf, trying to prove I wasn't broken. Turns out I'd never needed to prove anything. I just needed to survive long enough to become exactly who I was meant to be. And now? Now I was home. Chapter 9. Coronation. I woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and Lyra shaking my shoulder. "Nope," I mumbled, burrowing deeper into the blankets. "I passed the trials. I deserve sleep." "You passed the trials yesterday. Today, you become queen." She pulled the blankets off. "Up. Now. We have approximately 6 hours to transform you from girl who barely survived death trials to regal monarch worthy of worship. Can't I be regal tomorrow? The entire kingdom is gathering outside, Sera. You don't get to be tired." Groaning, I dragged myself out of bed. Kieran was already gone, probably handling the million preparations for the ceremony. The next few hours were a whirlwind. Lyra directed an army of attendants who bathed me, dressed me, styled my hair, and decorated me with jewelry I was terrified to touch because it probably cost more than my entire old pack's yearly income. The dress was a masterpiece, silver and white with intricate embroidery that caught the light with every movement. It fit perfectly, hugging my curves before flowing into a train that would make walking an adventure. "You look like you stepped out of a fairy tale," Lyra said, stepping back to admire her work. "I feel like I'm going to trip and fall on my face in front of thousands of people," I countered. "That's what the train bearers are for." She gestured to 2 young wolves who'd been standing by silently. "They'll keep you from face-planting. Probably." Very reassuring. A knock at the door made us both turn. Kieran entered, and the sight of him made my breath catch. He wore formal robes in deep blue and silver, with the crown of the Alpha King resting on his dark hair. He looked every inch the powerful ruler he was, but when his eyes landed on me, his expression softened into something that was just for me. "You're stunning," he breathed. "You're not so bad yourself," I managed. He crossed to me and took my hands. "How are you feeling? Terrified, excited, like I might throw up?" He laughed. "That's normal. I felt the same way at my coronation." "But you were born to this. You always knew you'd be king. And you were born to stand beside me. You just took a different path to get here." He squeezed my hands. "Sera, I need you to know something before we walk out there. This ceremony, the crown, the title, none of it matters as much as this." He touched his chest, where I knew he felt the mate bond thrumming between us. "You're already my queen, already my partner, already everything I need. The ceremony is just telling everyone else what I already know." Tears threatened, and Lyra made a noise of protest. Do not make her cry. Do you know how long that makeup took? Kieran smiled. Sorry. No more emotional declarations until after the ceremony. Thank you, Lyra said. Then she shooed him toward the door. Out! We'll meet you there. As he left, I touched my chest where the mate bond pulsed warm and steady. Ready? Lyra asked. No, but let's do it anyway. The coronation was being held in the palace's great hall, a massive space that somehow still felt crowded with the number of wolves who'd gathered. Every regional alpha was there, along with their entourages, representatives from neighboring kingdoms, the entire royal court. All of them watching as I walked down the center aisle toward the dais where Kieran waited. I focused on him, on the bond, on putting one foot in front of the other without tripping on my train. The walk felt endless, but finally I climbed the steps and stood beside him. Marcus, the elderly council member who'd been kind to me during training, stepped forward with a crown in his hands. It was more delicate than Kieran's, silver worked into the shapes of wolves and moons, with sapphires that caught the light like stars. Sera Whitlock, he intoned, his voice carrying through the silent hall. You have passed the Luna trials, proven your strength, wisdom, and heart. Do you swear to lead with compassion, to defend the weak, to uphold justice, and to serve as the heart of this kingdom? I do, I said, and my voice rang clear and strong. Then by the power vested in me, by the will of the moon goddess, and by the acclaim of this court, I name you Luna, Queen of the Northern Territories. He placed the crown on my head, and I felt its weight settle, surprisingly comfortable. May your reign be long and prosperous. May your wisdom guide us. May your strength protect us. The hall erupted in cheers and howls, a sound that shook the very walls. Kieran took my hand and raised it high. Your Luna Queen, he announced, and the cheering grew even louder. Then he leaned in and whispered, You're doing great. Just smile and wave. You can panic later. I laughed despite my nerves and did as he suggested, smiling and waving to the crowd. The rest of the ceremony was a blur of formalities and pageantry, wolves coming forward to pledge their loyalty, the regional alphas kneeling to swear fealty. A feast that seemed to last forever, with course after course of food I was too nervous to eat. Through it all, Kieran stayed at my side, a steady presence that kept me grounded. As the celebration finally wound down and we escaped to the balcony for a moment of quiet, I looked out over the city lights spreading below us. This is real, I said softly. I'm actually the Luna Queen. You are, Kieran confirmed. How does it feel? Surreal. Overwhelming. Like I'm going to wake up and find out this was all a dream, and I'm still in Clearwater territory. Still broken. Still nothing. He turned me to face him, his expression fierce. You were never nothing, Sera. Never broken. And this? He gestured to the crown, the palace, everything. This is just the world finally catching up to what you always were. And what's that? Extraordinary. He kissed me gently. Now, as your first official act as queen, I need you to make a decree. What decree? I asked, suspicious. That we're done with public appearances for tonight, and I get to have my mate to myself for at least the next 6 hours. I laughed. That's an abuse of power. That's what being queen is for. Abuse of power for personal gain. He grinned. So, do you decree it? I decree it, I said, and let him pull me back inside, away from the celebrations, to our chambers where we could finally be just us. Later, lying tangled together with his heartbeat steady beneath my ear, I thought about the strange path that had led me here. From broken child to exiled wolf to Luna Queen. What are you thinking about? Kieran murmured, running his fingers through my hair. About everything that had to go wrong for everything to go right, I said. If I'd shifted at 7 like I was supposed to, I'd be back in Clearwater right now, probably mated to someone from the pack, living a small life, never knowing there was anything more, never meeting you. I would have found you eventually, he said confidently. How can you be sure? Because mate bonds are fate, Sera. One way or another, we would have found each other. This is just the path the universe chose for us. A pretty brutal path. But it made you who you are. Strong enough to stand beside me. Compassionate enough to lead with heart. Wise enough to see truth where others see only rules. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. I wouldn't change anything about your past, even the painful parts, because they made you perfect. I'm not perfect. You're perfect for me. That's all that matters. I tilted my head up to kiss him, and we spent the rest of the night proving just how perfect we were for each other. Chapter 10. The Return. 3 months passed in a blur of learning to be queen, of court politics and diplomatic meetings, of settling into my role and my power. I loved it. Loved having a voice that mattered. Loved making changes that helped wolves who'd been marginalized like I had been. Loved standing beside Kieran as his equal partner, not just his mate. But there was still one thing left undone. One wound left unhealed. I need to go back, I told Kieran one evening, to Clearwater territory, to see my parents. He'd been expecting this. I could feel it through the bond. Are you sure you're ready? No, but I need to do it anyway. They've spent 3 months thinking I'm dead, or worse. They deserve to know I'm okay. Then we'll go together, he said simply. Kieran, you don't have to. I'm not letting you face your old pack alone, especially not Alpha Thorn, who will have to answer for what he did. His expression hardened. His sentencing has been delayed too long already. 2 days later, we traveled to Clearwater territory with a small escort. The pack knew we were coming. I'd sent word ahead, but I'd asked that my parents not be told. I wanted it to be a surprise. Alpha Thorn met us at the territory border, and seeing him again after all these months was surreal. He looked older, more worn, like the weight of his position had finally become too much to bear. Your Majesties, he said, kneeling along with the wolves who'd come with him. Welcome to Clearwater territory. Alpha Thorn, Kieran's voice was cold. Rise, we have matters to discuss. We were led to the pack's central hall, where the entire pack had gathered. I saw familiar faces, wolves who'd ignored me my whole life, who'd treated me as invisible. Now they stared with shock and no small amount of fear. Because I was their queen now. Their Luna. And they'd cast me out. Kieran addressed the assembly first, laying out the charges against Thorn. Negligence, cruelty, violation of pack law regarding late-blooming wolves. Your Alpha failed in his duty to protect one of his own, Kieran said, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. He exiled a pack member who should have been sheltered and trained. His ignorance and adherence to outdated law caused immeasurable harm. I accept full responsibility, Thorn said, his voice steady despite his fear. I followed the law as I understood it. But I was wrong. I see that now. Your understanding was lacking, Kieran said. And for that, there must be consequences. He looked at me. However, sentencing is not my decision alone. Sera? All eyes turned to me. This was my moment. My chance for revenge, for justice, for making them all pay for what they'd done. I thought about it. Thought about 18 years of pain. About my mother's tears and my father's shame. About being told I was broken when I was just different. Strip him of his alpha position, I said finally. Appoint a new alpha who understands that late-blooming wolves exist and should be protected. And Thorn? I looked directly at him. You'll serve as an advisor to the new alpha. You'll teach them everything you learned too late. You'll make sure no other child suffers what I did. That's your punishment. Living with what you did and working every day to prevent it from happening again. Thorn's eyes widened with surprise. He'd expected execution or exile. Instead, I was giving him a chance at redemption. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Your Majesty, I don't deserve such mercy. No, I agreed. You don't. But mercy isn't about what people deserve. It's about choosing to be better than your pain. Now, where are my parents? Someone went to fetch them, and I felt my heart start to race. Would they be angry? Hurt that I'd stayed away so long? Would they even recognize me, dressed like a queen instead of a cast-off daughter? When they entered the hall, my mother's gasp was audible even from across the room. "Sera?" Her voice broke. Is that really you?" I stepped down from the dais, leaving Kieran and Propriety behind, and ran to her like the child I'd once been. She caught me in her arms, and we both started crying. "You're alive," she sobbed. "You're alive and safe, and oh God, Sera, we were so afraid." "I'm okay," I managed through my own tears. "Mom, I'm okay. More than okay. I pulled back to show her the crown. "I'm the Luna Queen." "I don't understand," my father said, his voice choked. "What happened? How?" So I told them. Everything. The exile, the shift, meeting Kieran, the trials, all of it. They listened with expressions that cycled through shock and grief and pride and wonder. "You became queen," my mother said, touching the crown reverently. "Our daughter is the Luna Queen." "I'm still just Sera," I said. "Still your daughter. That hasn't changed." "Everything's changed," my father said, but he was smiling through his tears. "You're not the broken little girl we thought we'd lost. He shook his head. "You're magnificent." "I was never broken," I said gently. "I was just waiting. My wolf knew I wasn't ready, knew I needed to be stronger first. She was protecting me, not abandoning me." "We should have understood that," my mother said. "Should have fought harder for you." "I'm so sorry, Sera. So desperately sorry we failed you." "You didn't fail me. You loved me when everyone else saw me as worthless. You protected me as much as you could. That's not failure, Mom. That's everything." We stood there in the hall, my parents holding me like I might disappear again, while the entire pack watched in silence. Finally, Kieran cleared his throat. "If the reunion is complete, we should discuss practical matters. Sera, your parents are welcome at the Capitol. We have more than enough room." "Would you?" I asked them. "Would you consider moving to be near me?" "Try to stop us," my father said fiercely. So, it was settled. My parents would join us in the Capitol, would be part of my new life, not just ghosts of my old one. As we prepared to leave Clearwater territory for the last time, I looked back at the place that had been my home for 18 years. The place that had broken me and shaped me in equal measure. "Any regrets?" Kieran asked, his arm around my waist. "No," I said, and meant it. "Everything I went through led me here. Led me to you. Led me to becoming exactly who I needed to be. Why would I regret that?" He kissed my temple. "My wise queen." "Your stubborn queen," I corrected. "That too." We returned to the Capitol as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. My parents traveled with us, marveling at everything, and I felt a completeness I hadn't realized I'd been missing. I had my mate, my crown, my parents, my purpose. I had everything. Epilogue, 5 years later. The nursery was bathed in soft morning light when I pushed open the door. Kieran sat in the rocking chair by the window, cradling our daughter in his arms, singing softly in the ancient language of wolves. "She's perfect," he said without looking up, knowing I was there through the bond that had only grown stronger with time. I crossed the room and looked down at our baby girl, barely 3 days old, with a shock of dark hair and eyes that would probably turn golden like her father's. "She is," I agreed. "We should name her." "I was thinking Luna," he suggested, "after her mother's title. 2 on the nose." I stroked her tiny cheek. "What about Arya?" "It means Lionheart in the old language." "Arya Blackthorn," he tested the name. "I like it. Strong. Brave. Like her mother." I settled into the chair beside him, resting my head on his shoulder. Through the window I could see the Capitol spread out below us, prosperous and growing. 5 years as Luna Queen had been everything I'd hoped and nothing I'd expected. Hard work, constant challenges, political maneuvering that would make my head spin, but also joy, purpose, the chance to make real, lasting change. The laws regarding late-blooming wolves had been reformed. No pack could exile a member for failing to shift on schedule. Education programs had been established to teach alphas about the signs of delayed shifting, and shelters had been created for wolves who'd been cast out before the law changed, giving them a place to belong. My parents lived in the palace now, doting grandparents who couldn't believe their daughter ruled a kingdom. Lyra had become my closest friend and most trusted advisor. Even Morgana had warmed to me, grudgingly admitting I'd proven myself worthy 100 times over. And Kieran was everything. Partner, mate, father, best friend. The bond between us had only deepened with time, growing from the desperate pull of newly fated mates to something richer and more complex. "What are you thinking?" he asked, always able to sense when my mind wandered. "About the first time we met. About how I thought you were insane for claiming I was your mate. You were half feral and naked in a forest. It wasn't my most romantic moment." I laughed. "No, but it was honest. That's what I needed. Not pretty words or careful courting, but raw truth." Arya made a small sound, and we both looked down at her. She would grow up in a world different from the one I'd known, would never be told she was broken or worthless, would have a pack that celebrated her, not diminished her. "Do you think she'll be a late bloomer too?" Kieran asked. "It runs in families." "Maybe. Probably." I took his free hand. "But if she is, she'll have parents who understand, who won't let anyone make her feel like there's something wrong with her." "We'll protect her," he said fiercely. "Both of us. Together." "Together," I agreed. There was a knock at the door, and my mother peeked in. "Sorry to interrupt, but the council is waiting." "Something about a delegation from the Eastern Territories?" I sighed. "Duty calls." "Always," Kieran agreed, but he smiled. "Go, I've got her." I kissed them both, first Arya's forehead, then Kieran's lips, and headed for the council chambers. Being queen meant constant demands on my time, but it also meant I could ensure no other child went through what I had. Could use my position and power to make the world better. As I entered the council chamber and took my seat beside Kieran's empty throne, I thought about how far I'd come. From the girl with no wolf to the Luna Queen. The pack had exiled me for being broken, but I'd never been broken. I'd just been waiting to become exactly who I needed to be. And now? Now I was home. Not in a place, but in a purpose. In a life I'd fought for and earned and built with my own hands. "Your Majesty," Marcus said, pulling me from my thoughts. "The delegation awaits." I straightened my crown and smiled. Then let's not keep them waiting. Being queen was hard work, but I'd survived worse, and this time I had a whole kingdom standing behind me. The end. Thank you for listening to Olivia Romance audiobook. If you enjoyed Sera's journey from outcast to queen, please subscribe for more emotionally powerful werewolf romances. Until next time, may you discover the strength you didn't know you had.